Welcome everyone to Black NSA Monday Mastery. We have such a treat for you tonight. I can't wait. I'm just pumped. You see, I've got a party all around me, pillows, everything, because we have the best professional speakers on the line that are members of our community, but we'll find out about that in a bit. I just wanted to share as one of Black NSA's co-leaders. My name is Marquessa Petway, and I just wanted to remind you to get on our email list if you're not there. So if you're seeing this video and you're like, I didn't know something was happening, make sure you're on our email list. Below this video, I will post a link to our email list. Also, guys, Influence is coming up, but before Influence gets here, I'm gonna share my screen in 1 second. We have another NSA national event. I don't know if anyone on here is going. I'm actually going to the NSA page right now. We have another national event coming up. Let's go here. Share my lovely screen, here we go. Okay. Boom. All right. And if you go to nsaspeaker.org, it gives you all the information. If you're not a member, you learn about that. You learn about everything. And guys, if you're serious about professional speaking, you gotta be a member of NSA. And if you're working on membership, Black NSA can help you with that. So if you're thinking, I'm not a member, I want to be a member, tell me more, please send an email to theblacknsa@gmail.com. Some of you can post that in the chat room, or Seema, one of you guys. It's theblacknsa.com, where we have a Facebook group just for those of you that are interested in membership and maybe you don't qualify right now. So I'm on this page and you notice everything is showing here. And I'm bringing up the video lab, which is happening in Atlanta next month. I happen to be one of the speakers for the video lab. But guys, I invite you to show up and come. And then, I don't know why this thing is moving so slow. Thanks for that. Influence. So this is the video lab, guys. You have until April 1st, which is Saturday, to get a discount on that. So hopefully you guys know what the video discount is. If not, we will post that in the chat room a little bit later. April 1st to get the rate that's listed on the site plus a discount that they send in the mail. So I'm gonna make sure Black NSA knows what that discount is, and it was sent out, so I'm not sharing anything I shouldn't be sharing. Okay, then we're gonna go back. One quick thing for Influence, which is happening this summer. This is our Super Bowl. It's awesome. You're gonna see the lovely Lenora walking around there. Make sure you run up and say hi to her. She's so welcoming, and Summer as well. Matter of fact, Lenora and Summer will play a big role with Black NSA's showcase. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that if you're ready. So, Lenora a little bit later with Black NSA's program, which will take place Saturday night. The conference kicks off Saturday. But if you go here, it says events, Influence. This is a key announcement. Right now, a lot of you guys are making your reservations. Please plan to stay a day after the conference ends. That is really important. Black NSA has a bunch of events the day after. We have a mastermind. We have so many different events. And if you're thinking, Marquess, I'm not staying another night in the hotel, just fly out late the next day. So instead of flying out that morning, fly out late. And I apologize, and I don't know what the dates are at this moment, but I think we end on a Tuesday. Wednesday is when we have all of our stuff. Is that correct? Wednesday is when we have all of our stuff. All right. All right, guys, that's all I had. Now I'm going to introduce you to your host right now. She is a member of the Black NSA board. Her name is Summer Owens, an award-winning author, speaker, and so what? S-O what? Success coach. She's a former teen mother with no excuses. And guys, I mean no excuses. This girl was like the valedictorian. She's brilliant. And in her town of Tennessee, she's a celebrity out there. She didn't put that in her bio, but I'm mentioning it. So what attitude that has helped her beat the odds and help others do the same. Known as the Young Adult Activators, she uses hard-learned lessons from her life to educate, inspire, and motivate youth and young adults to overcome their obstacles and achieve their own so what success. And guys, she walks her talk, and I'm so excited because she has become such an important member of the Black NSA community, and we love her. And anything we ask Summer to do, she does it in excellence. So I'm going to leave. Summer, you got it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Marquessa. Thank you so much, Marquessa. And I think you have done a good job of welcoming everyone to Monday Mastery. So I'll skip the opening and just everybody welcome. I'm so excited. I really want to jump into this interview because Lenora has a wealth of knowledge, and I want to give her as much time as possible, or really give us as much time as possible to get as much information from her as possible. So I have the unique pleasure of interviewing CSP, Council of Peers Award of Excellence at CPAE, Speaker Hall of Fame inductee, as well as CAVIT Award winner, Lenora Billings-Harris. She leads a full-service diversity, has presented to audiences in over 40 y'all, counties on 6 continents, including the middle of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Now, you don't win those awards and get to speak all over the world without having an established business and without knowing exactly what you're talking about. Now, when I came to my first influence, I was one of those, I was told, there are a couple people that you need to meet. And Lenora was the first one. And so Marquessa, it's funny Marquessa even said, run up tours, introduce yourself. I was like, yep, that's what I was told to do. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Guess what I did? And she was so sweet, just like Marquessa said too, sweet, humble, and I'm just grateful and thankful for the connection that I have with her now, because she, again, is a wealth of knowledge, but maybe even above that, she is a sweet, sweet person that wants to see us succeed. And so without further ado, I want to welcome everybody to this interview with the one and only Lenora Billings-Harris. Now, first, Lenora, where are you?
So I am so excited to share this with you, because I hope that this will be a learning for other people on this chat who are like me, that feel technically challenged. So I am in Jersey City, and the background that you see is New York, and that's the World Trade Center. However, that's not the live photo that is from my window, but that's not the live photo. It's the live picture. It's a photo. So it's not happening live, it's a photo. And how that came about is, as I was setting up, I'm in a hotel because I was working with my client this morning, and when I was setting up, I remembered I'd been having some problems on my laptop with Zoom, and I didn't want it to cut out or lose audio. So I thought, I've got Zoom on my phone. And so I tested it out, and Zoom was working fine. And then I remembered, I've got the virtual background, because I have the NSA, created a way for all of us to get the top of the line at a discount. And because I think this only works on an iPhone. I had talked to the tech the other day, but I have an iPhone. And so the virtual background works on an iPhone. So I went into that real quick. I found a virtual background, and I said, well, that's nice. But it asked me if I wanted to use my own photos that are in the phone. And I thought, well, what the heck? Well, I arrived yesterday, so I took a picture. And I went in, and I thought, well, there's the background, because that's really where I am. And the way my hotel room looked before I did any of that, hotels are kind of dark, and I had lights moved all over the place, and it still didn't really look good at all. And I thought, well, I stumbled upon this, and I've learned one more thing. So for those of you trying to figure out Zoom, there's one more way you can use it, and it works great on the phone.
Oh, that is awesome, Lenora. So I use Zoom, and I thought I was pretty comfortable with it. And obviously, there's a lot more to learn, a lot of cool things that we can do. And I did take advantage of that offer that NSA gave us. So I have that Zoom account too. So I'll be playing with it. I'm not an iPhone person, I Android. So I have to see if Android offers that. That's really, really cool. So that brings me, really to my first question. So you talk about technology and learning and growing. I'm sure a lot has changed since you started your business. Can you take us back to the beginning, where you started your business? What made you start your business, and how have you grown and evolved with your business?
Well, it's going way back. Internet did not exist way back then. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. I started my business in 1986. So I've been in business over 30 years at this point. And when I started my business, I did not know about the National Speakers Association, even though I lived in Phoenix. However, a colleague of mine who worked at Arizona State University, I didn't work there, but a person that I met who is a past president of NSA, Ed Scannell, I met him, and he and I would run into each other frequently at various events. So when I told him I was thinking about starting a training business, because I had no idea how huge this profession is, he said, well, you have to join NSA. And I said, well, I'm not a speaker, because, you know, a lot of people think because it says speaker that the only people who can join are keynoters, which of course is not the case for those of you who are not members yet. It's everyone who uses the spoken word as a way to generate income. So you could be a consultant, an author, speaker, trainer, facilitator, coach, I mean, just all of those type ways to build your business. In any case, he kept hounding me, and for 2 years. So finally in 1988, I went to a local chapter meeting, which was meeting in the Biltmore in Phoenix. And I thought, oh my goodness, this organization is meeting at the Biltmore. This must be an organization I need to be a part of. And within 20 minutes of being in that chapter meeting, I knew I had found home. I knew this was the place I needed to be. So that's how I started the business. And I had already been in business though for 2 years.
Okay.
But then I realized, oh, there is so much more to learn about the business of speaking, how to be successful in this business.
Okay, so we just got a quick question. We'll talk about NSA a little bit more, but you referenced NSA. You even referenced an NSA president. Someone asked, were you the first Black president?
Yes. So I was the first person of color, period, as president. There were a couple of other people of color on the board before me. Willie Jolly and I came on at the same time. Excuse me. But there were at least 2 people who were of color when I came on the board, and I believe there was one other person of color, not African American, but one other person of color several years before. However, I was the first person of color, period. So the first African American person to become president.
And that's awesome. And of course, when I see you, Lenora, I'm always inspired by you as a woman and as a person of color. And to just see you and your business and where you are with NSA and how you've grown your business shows me, and I'm sure everybody who's watching, what's possible. What's possible. So can you share with us a little bit about your business structure, and maybe what a typical work day looks like for you?
Sure. My area of focus is diversity and inclusion, although I didn't start there because my background was HR and training and development. So when I first started the business, I was delivering all types of management development training, you know, leadership and hiring and firing, pretty much all of those categories, running workshops, and oftentimes working as a subcontractor with other consultancies. Frankly, I thought that's what you did. I mean, you either owned a consultancy that was what I call brick and mortar, you know, a big company, and you hired subcontractors, or you were one of those subcontractors. I really didn't know there anything else existed. And then once I joined NSA and I started looking at what other people were doing, and as you know, NSAers will, the way I describe it is we trip over ourselves trying to help other people be successful in this business, because that helps all of us become better. So I kept going to NSA events once I joined, both national and my chapter. And I learned that I needed to specialize. Other NSA, in fact, it was another past president, Tom Wininger, and I were chatting, and I didn't think he knew me from Adam, but we happened to be in this conversation with a group of people, and he said, you know, when you're outside of a corporation, you need to specialize. You need to become an expert in an area. So I started looking for what that area might be, and was not looking at diversity at all, because I didn't like what I saw other people doing at the time. It was very judgmental and that type of thing. But nevertheless, I began to look. And so I dabbled in it a bit, trying to see if that's what I wanted to do because other people kept telling me I should. And then finally, in the early 90s, enough things happened to me personally. You know, when you're looking for something, that's when it appears. It could have always been there. You just didn't see it before, right? And so I realized that this was really what I was put on the planet to do. And I started developing my own expertise. So in regards to what a typical day looks like, in the early days, because again, there was no internet, there was no social media, I had also learned that you should try your very best to stay in contact with any of the people who have brought you in, whether free or for pay, just to keep in touch with them. So I wrote lots of handwritten notes. And today that can be really powerful because nobody does it. So when you write a note, people really remember. So I stayed in touch with people, and I would speak for free in my community, you know, to keep practicing and that kind of thing. And of course, more people would come up and say, "Do you do this? And can you do this in my organization, in my company?" And I actually like to travel. So when people were saying they wanted to do more local work, I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll do the out of town work." And so fast forward to today, I would say that I still run my business more traditionally, meaning more like it had been done in the past.
Okay.
I am all over the internet. I don't have an account with Instagram, although I've been told I'm on it, so I better open up. But
you would have some really cool Instagram pictures, Lenora.
I know, so I have to open an account so I can get those pictures.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. So I tweet every day now, and I use Hootsuite, so it's not like I'm having to take the time always, like when I'm traveling. But I tweet something every day. I have what I call a news brief. It's not a newsletter exactly, but a news brief that is a curation of lots of information about diversity and inclusion, what's going on in the world. So it's current events. And I post articles of my own when I do write them. And it has videos on it, has lots of different things. It's called the diversityadvantage.info if you'd like to check it out. Just go on the browser and you'll see what the whole thing looks like. But in any case, so I change that every week. My clients sign up for that and they share it with one another. I get a good deal of business from the internet. I'm still stunned by that, but people will come to me through my website. So through the little contact area on my website. And so in addition to responding to those type of things, then I also am represented by several bureaus.
Okay.
And speaker bureaus that will call me. And that to me is like free business, meaning they're bringing business to me I would not have otherwise gotten. And I never pursued them, bureaus, they found me. So what happens is you get really good at what you do. It's like a bank. When you need a loan, they don't want to talk to you. But when you don't need one, then they're all coming wanting to give you money, right? And so that's kind of how bureaus work. So that's pretty much when I'm not traveling, you know, in the office, it's keeping up with all of those various things and trying to stay current and relevant and write as often as I can, and then stay in touch with people. So my habit starting this year is to send a note of some kind, at least a handwritten note, or it could be a picture or something like that, to send something out every day to somebody that's in my database.
Every day. That's cool. Now, you mentioned several things. So you have a lot going on. You even said you tweet every day. We're working on Instagram. That's coming. But and then you write. I know in my business, it's hard to manage all of that, to do all that. Even something as simple as tweeting every day.
Yes.
Can be a challenge. What does your team look like? What type of support do you have? And how did you go about building that team to get where you
Yes, great
are
question.
today?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I don't stop to tweet every day. I use several virtual assistants. So I have one virtual assistant who is my admin person. So she's checking my email all the time. I also use eSpeakers at its pro level, which is a great way to keep track of everything a speaker needs to know. You should, use it anyway for that reason, regardless of the marketing part, although it can be a marketing part as well. So I have an admin that would be just like an admin in the old days that you might have in your office. And so
Okay.
she sets up appointments for me and all those kind of things.
And that's Molly, right?
That's Molly, exactly.
That's my friend, yeah.
And she keeps me sane. I probably drive her crazy, but she keeps me sane. I have another virtual assistant who's responsible for all of my various accounts on the internet. So including my website. Now she does, I have a company that is the service for my website, but my website is WordPress, and so Patrice knows how to change things, or when I need to put a PDF in for a particular client so it's hidden, she'll do all of those things. We just updated several things on there, so she changes the pictures, and if I need a video edited a little bit and that kind of thing, so she does all of those kind of things. So I call her my tech guru. And so I have Molly and my tech guru. And then I have one other person, Jen, who is my marketing director. So what she will do is when I have those inquiries that come in from my website, she will be the person that will follow up with those folks. And she finds me business as well. Now she is paid totally by commission. Everyone else is paid based on what we have worked out, either by month or by hours. And then the additional VAs that I use are people that I need that are experts in an area, like when I want a new PowerPoint template or an article edited or a book edited, or that kind of thing. And what I would say to you as people on this chat is that we think we need to do everything. That's not a good use of our time. We are way too expensive to do everything. It is so much easier to go to Fiverr or go to Upwork and find somebody who's expert in that area you need for a project, and they get it done way faster than you would have, and probably a lot better. So, all of us have to get over the fact that I don't want to pay somebody to do something, but it frees you up to then make the time to do the writing, to do, because like when I send a tweet out now, since my other ones are set up ahead of time, when I send a tweet out, it's like extra. So I send at least one a day, but then if I'm reading something or see an article or what have you, and I tweet that, then it really looks like I'm very active on Twitter.
That's of course excellent advice there, like everything that I'm sure you'll say. But last year was my first year of getting it. Because what I thought, and probably a lot of people on this chat will think too, I can afford to pay somebody to do these things. And what I quickly have learned, well, maybe not so quickly, but what I learned was I can't afford not to. That I'm actually losing money by doing these things myself.
Exactly.
So,
well, and the other part of that, Summer, is that when you're busy doing everything, you don't have time to really have a life. And one of the things that we don't talk about enough, I think, as speakers, is how important it is to schedule time for yourself. And if you have children, schedule time with your children. If you have a partner, schedule time for a vacation. I mean, schedule it. And what I mean by that, and why some people might say, well, I take my kids on vacation. When you take your kids, that's not a vacation. It is for them, but that's a trip for you. And so if you have a partner, you want to schedule time just for the two of you. Because unfortunately, too many people in this business start out in a relationship, but then don't have one because they got so consumed doing everything that they didn't have time for anything else. And the other thing that has happened, and as I am now much older, I see this happening more often, is those folks that have been so driven, that have not taken care of themselves physically, are now having all kinds of physical challenges. So we really need, I don't believe you have life balance. Something is always out of kilter, but you really have to make time for those things. And I found that when I've told a client that wanted me on a certain day, if I had blocked out that time for vacation with my husband, then once we block out the time and he books the tickets, then nothing gets in the way of that, that we're going to go. So I will turn down business. Now, luckily, I haven't had to turn down a lot, but every now and then I'll have a huge opportunity. And then they want me on the dates when I'm going to be on vacation for 2 weeks. And I will say to them, you know, I'm not available, and here's the reason why. And I have found that my clients respect me more for doing that rather than being, you know, upset or annoyed. Now, obviously, they won't change conference dates. They can't do that.
Yeah.
But if it's a corporate client and they really want you, they can change the date internally.
That's good. I think, especially with us starting to grow our business, these are really important things that we need to know, because I mean, starting out, you need the money so badly, or you feel like you need the money so badly that you can easily let go of self-care.
Yes.
And prioritizing yourself and your health and your family. So I think these are really, really good tips. So as you started to grow your business, one of the things that I find fascinating, so you said you were in New Jersey, and I was totally prepared for you to say you were in Hong Kong or anywhere else. How could you tell us about maybe the first international speaking engagement you had, if you remember, because you've probably been doing it a long, long time, and how you ended up being an international speaker?
Yes. Well, the first time that I spoke internationally, I wasn't even in my business yet. I really started doing it when I still was working in the corporate world, and I realized I just love to travel and I love to learn about other cultures. And so this was way before I even started focusing on inclusion. However, within the business, the first few times that I did work outside of the U.S., came about because I was working with a client in the US that had offices elsewhere. And that is one of the wonderful ways to get started. So with whatever clients you have now, if they are big enough that they have offices in other countries, let them know that you are more than willing to deliver your products and services to their offices in other places. So that's how it started. And then for me, and then I've also written a couple of books, one of which is a strategy book that in regards to diversity and inclusion, called Trailblazers. But if you go on Amazon and just put my name in, it's much easier to find my books that way. But in any case, when I wrote the book Trailblazers, I co-authored it with a colleague of mine who was a chief diversity officer within a company. And after we wrote that book, that propelled my business again, internationally as well as nationally, because it established me as an expert. And because the principles apply not just in the US, so the book wasn't just US based diversity, that it got more attention. Now, I didn't do all the things that we learned in NSA to promote our books. I wasn't smart enough to do that back then. But nevertheless, it did get some recognition, and clients would buy it to use it kind of as a guide as they were setting up their diversity initiatives. Then the one other thing I did is when I learned about the Global Speakers Federation, I thought, well, that's a way to learn about if I connected with people when they came to the NSA influence, because a lot of international folks come to our convention because ours is the big kahuna, quite honestly. I would make a point to reach out to them and to get to know them. And so after I had stepped down from my presidency of NSA and I was totally off the board, I became more involved with the Global Speakers Federation, which ultimately led to becoming president of it. However, having said that, what I would recommend to folks is, if you are interested in speaking globally, then start going to speaker associations in other countries. Now, you have to do it on your own dime, which is what I did as well. But you start going to other associations and networking and making friends. All of the other associations are much smaller than NSA, so it's very easy to network and connect, and you'll always find some other people from the US that are going as well. And then people get to know you, just like within Black NSA, we want to get to know each other and what you do so that we can refer you. That the same thing happens in that regard globally. So I learned more about the global market, and I connected with people. And so today, truly, no matter where I go in the world, I feel like I am never alone, because there's going to be somebody either who lives in that country that I can connect with through Global Speakers Federation, or I'll know somebody who can connect me to somebody. So I went to Dublin for the first time the latter part of last year, and I didn't know anyone in Ireland, but I reached out to the Professional Speakers Association of the UK. It's called UKI, so it's UK and Ireland. So I reached out to the president and I said, well, I'm going to be in Dublin on such and such a date, and I'm going to stay a couple extra days. Can you connect me with someone there? Well, not only did he connect me, they ended up deciding to have a luncheon for me. We had a wonderful day together, and I got to know them and got to know the culture before I was speaking to the people there. So we do have friends everywhere, and it's about connecting and going back to writing articles, getting them on the internet. That gets noticed internationally, and people start calling you. I close my engagements much easier internationally than I do in the US, because by the time they reach out to me, they already know they want to bring me over.
That's awesome. That is truly awesome. I wish I could be taking notes right now, but I'm glad that this is being recorded. And I look forward to looking back at the recording. This is all really, really good information. We take it back a step a little bit. So and I aspire to speak internationally. Probably a lot of people on this call do too, but maybe some of us are even struggling to just get bookings in the States. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have, maybe in addition, because I think you've been given some great tips about speaking international that we can apply to just speaking, period. But yes, what other advice do you have, maybe for somebody who's still new in the speaking business and they want to grow their business?
Well, you know, every time I go to the Black NSA event at Influence, I am blown away at the professionalism and expertise of the people in the room compared, because I remember when it was like 11 of us, and now there are so many more, and people are coming in with so much knowledge. So the first thing I would say is to recognize that the business is more than being on the platform. And that's the part that we all like. That's whether it's facilitating training or delivering a keynote. We like that part, but look at that part as the reward for all the things you did to get there in the first place. Mm-hmm. So one of the things is, like I said, write. And if you are not a writer, then transcribe your keynote. Have your keynote transcribed. Use Rev, R-E-V. They transcribe. It's very, very inexpensive, and you get it back quickly, and then you can use that to begin to write articles, which can then turn into something as large as a chapter. Think about using ghostwriters to help you get the writing done, because your book, especially your first book, is like a glorified business card.
Business card.
Exactly. When you write a book, people think you know what you're talking about. And so, and now there are all kinds of ways that you can market it. And the advantage that you have today in getting into this business is the internet. So you want to make sure that you stay connected with people and not just pushing out information to them, but starting conversations with them. If I was going to start all over again today, I certainly would use LinkedIn to try to connect with the people that would possibly bring me into their organization. So quick example, when I was writing the Trailblazer book, we wanted to interview several chief diversity officers, and we knew several. My colleague Rita and I knew several, but we wanted more. And I read an article in a magazine, and it was about the chief diversity officer at the time at American Airlines. I didn't know him at all. I went on LinkedIn, I found him, I I discovered as I was looking at his profile that I was one person away. A very good friend of mine who lived in Dallas was, the first level friend of his. And so I called her up and I said, Tracy, I need to know so-and-so. Can you connect me? She did. He was delighted that I wanted to interview him. So he was in the book. And subsequently, he hired me at least 3 or 4 times. And then he left American Airlines and he hired me the next place that he went. So my point is, you have tools at hand that you can use. And once again, you don't have to do it all. Get someone else to do some of that research for you. But then when you do reach out, you need to reach out, in my opinion, you need to reach out in a human way, not just a sales pitch. So learn something about the person and then write to them with referencing something that you learned about them, usually to give them something, not a physical thing, but give them a physical, meaning maybe it could be an article. I thought you might be interested in this. So develop that relationship, because even with all the things we have technically, this business is still very much a relationship business, and one referral leads to another and leads to another. So when you're starting out, speak as often as you can. And although you do want to get paid to speak, while you are developing your keynote or developing your program, be willing to test it out. That would be for the free speeches. So be willing to speak for free so that you can really fine tune it. The more that you're in front of an audience, the better you're going to be. And then most importantly, get the database. So I say today, no speech is actually free, because when I speak for free, which does happen sometimes, if I really, really want to be in front of a certain audience, then my contingency arrangement with them is, in lieu of a fee, you will agree to write a testimonial paragraph. I don't ask for a whole letter anymore because nobody writes letters, but they will write a paragraph that they will send to me via email that I can then use on my website. They'll also write a testimonial or a referral, I think it's called, on LinkedIn. So if they're on LinkedIn,
recommendation, absolutely.
Yes, they'll write a recommendation on LinkedIn. When I speak, if they have a photographer, then I'm going to talk to that photographer directly, give that photographer my business card, and talk to them about the pictures I want to capture. Because most of the time, photographers have no idea what kind of pictures speakers who do this for a living want, with the audience and behind you and all of that. And so most of the time I get all of those pictures for free directly from the photographer. But I will also make an arrangement with the client to say, you'll send me all the pictures of me in action. And if you videotape it, I won't charge you for the videotaping. I will allow you to videotape me. I totally own the copyright. You can use it not for sale, but you can use it, like on your website or wherever you're going to use it for a year. And you send me a copy, which is a link these days to just download it all within 10 days. They have no idea how valuable that is. So those are the things that you use to begin to put together your preview tape. Get those videos and then get it edited or edit yourself. And because these days people want to see you before they hire you. So you get those video clips, it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And I've looked at your website and I probably watched all the videos that you have on there. And I think that's great. You gave us a whole lot of tools. I was going to try to recap them, but it was so many and I wasn't writing. I was just listening. But I think one of the key takeaways was, and this goes back to your answer about growing your business internationally too, was not being afraid to make connections and build relationships, not being afraid to network. And so I think that's really strong. What do you attribute, in addition to a number of those things that you just said, your successes? You've had a lot of successes. Who or what do you attribute that success to?
I unlike some people that we know in this business who've been highly successful, who have had mentors along the way, that was not the case for me. I never really had a mentor. We know who our mentors are. So I never really had someone that I would say that person was my mentor. But I've had many sponsors, and the way I mean that is people who have seen me in action, whether it's in service, so, volunteering for something,
Mhm.
or then of course being on the boards and that type of thing, or they saw me in action, and without me knowing it, and without me even knowing that they have noticed me, they have opened doors for me. And I learn it after the fact, that, after I had an opportunity or what have you. Not now I'm fishing for, how did this come about? And then I discovered that this person that I never knew I existed, believed in me already. So I know I've had many sponsors out there, many people whose shoulders I now stand on. The other is that reasonably early on in my career, I read an article at NSA, as a matter of fact. It was a white paper that the president of that year had written. Mark Sanborn commissioned some experts to write a paper on what is an expert.
Mm.
And based on what they wrote, I had all the criteria except one. And that one thing that I didn't have was original research. So I have a master's degree, not a PhD. But I was connected to a couple of universities here or in North Carolina. And one of them, the business school, had asked me to do some diversity work for them. I was doing it as a volunteer.
Okay.
And so the dean, was so impressed with what I had done. He said, "Well, we don't have any money," which I knew they didn't. He said, "Well, how would you like to be an adjunct professor?" He said, "You don't have to teach." And I said, because I said, I'm never in the same place the same day. And he said, "Well, no, you don't have to teach. It would be a title that we give you for no pay. And, would that be of benefit?" Well, oh my gosh, of course, because I always have it on my intro slide, and people are very impressed that I'm an adjunct faculty member, because they don't realize that adjunct means you show up occasionally, right? And so, but anyway, as a result of that, because I was am still an adjunct professor, in this case at University of North Carolina, Greensboro, one of their professors decided they wanted to do research in the area of diversity. And they asked me to be on the team because I had the business acumen outside of the business school, meaning I actually was doing the work. And so that enabled me to do academic research that now has won an international award and is in international academic journals worldwide. So doing that research, now it doesn't necessarily have to be academic, but I would certainly recommend to all of the speakers listening is to find something where you could do some research, just create some type of questionnaire and gather the research, gather the responses. And because people want lists, they like the 10 best, whatever. And so that's another way to make yourself stand out. So there's so many people in the business today, and so many that do this for free, that to me, a professional speaker is not only somebody that gets paid, but it's somebody that takes their profession seriously. They follow a code of ethics, which comes about as part of being a member of NSA, and they continue to develop their expertise. So by writing, ultimately writing a book. Don't write a book when you're not ready, but write a book. Don't put it off until you think it's going to be perfect, because it never will be. But get that book written, network with other NSA folks, reach out internationally, and start by finding people internationally who speak in your same area and say, I'd just like to have a Zoom call with you for 20 minutes so you can tell me what's customer service like in Singapore, or wherever it is you might want to go. And then business-wise, however you set up your business, number one, run it as a business, whether it's a corporation or it's a limited, or whichever way you do it. Pay yourself a salary. Don't commingle your personal finances with your business finances. Pay yourself a salary, and then always put some money away for your business, because there will be a recession. They're already starting to talk now about another recession coming. So there'll be a recession, and speakers, consultants, and trainers are the first to go, and travel budgets for corporations is the second thing to go. That impacts us in two ways. So you want to have some residual, some reserve income that you can fall back on during those times that are slower. And then that's when you write your books and you develop your e-learning courses and all that kind of thing.
Wow, so much. I just got a bunch of ideas. I'm actually an adjunct professor, and I never really thought about leveraging it in the way that you just mentioned. So yeah, I'm like, I need to be writing this stuff. So I
That's
got to So this is awesome stuff. You maybe kind of alluded to this, but go into a little bit detail if you will. As a woman, as a minority, and then also in a probably really non-traditional profession, what are some of the challenges that you've had, or maybe some of your bigger challenges, and how have you overcome those challenges?
So every now and then somebody would say, is it difficult doing this work as a woman or as a Black person? And I think, whatever conversations folks are having that might be negative, I'm not in the room. So to some degree, I don't know. However, from my perspective, I would say as a woman, even though I don't have children, and my husband and I don't have children by choice, we still have a life. We still have a family. So, and my husband has had positions that were very public, and the spouse of people with that position is like a job. Mm-hmm. So my challenge in the past was how to balance my business with the time that I need to be present and visible for things that he is doing. And, when the business is a little slow, it's hard to turn things down. Mm-hmm. I'm at a place now, I'm very, very fortunate and blessed to be at a place where I can say no much more easily, but it takes a long time to get there usually. But the more you build passive income, whether it's e-learning programs or video-based programs or, writing books and marketing the heck out of them or whatever, the more you can create income where you don't have to be on an airplane, the more it can help. So I would say a challenge for women, because women are still seen as the caretakers, is how do you balance taking care of your children and also doing this work? And I think of Laura Stack, who people who are members of NSA would know her, another past president. And when she started her business, she wanted to make sure she stayed at home. Now, if you live in a big city, it makes it a lot easier. I live in Greensboro. This would not have worked very well if I was just starting out and I lived in Greensboro, but she lives in Denver. And so when she first started her business, she made sure that she was working with all these firms in Denver. So she did a lot of things to make herself very well known locally. Every time I moved, because I had been moving quite frequently, I would get very involved locally as well, just to build up my name and then, develop some local business as well. So I think being a woman can be a challenge. What I am told by speaker bureaus sometimes is that it's getting much, much better, but it used to be a time where when a company contacted their speaker bureau, they specifically wanted men, because the assumption was men knew what they were talking about and men were going to hold the audience better. That has shifted. Now more and more companies are saying we need diversity on our platform. And when we don't have it, our members or our employees really let us know. So this is a good time to be in this business when you are a person of color and when you are a woman. Of course, you still have to be very good. That kind of goes without saying. The other challenge is in my area of expertise, which is diversity and inclusion. People want the work, they want to bring you in, but they may have a difficult time finding the money. And that could go for any topic, but particularly this one, because not everybody in an organization is convinced they need it in the first place. So sometimes finding the money is hard. And what I've done over time is to depending on what kind of organization it is, especially if it's an association, is to help them find sponsors or if they have sponsors already, to have that sponsor me to come. And what I offer them, by the way, and this works with associations, it's not going to work quite so well with corporations, but if I'm going to speak with an association and they do connect me to a sponsor to help pay my fee, then the way I help them with that, because I don't help them find the sponsor necessarily, but I will say to them, now, if you find a sponsor, then if that sponsor is located in the city where we're going, I will come in a day early and do what I call a roundtable for 20 of their people. Now, a roundtable means you pick my brain, you ask me any question you want to, but I don't have to prepare anything. Mm-hmm. And that's my gift to the sponsors. If the sponsors are located somewhere else, then I'll do a webinar for them or a Zoom or something that really isn't costing me anything. And that is a way to not only get the sponsor to want to pay your fee, but now you're exposed to them, just that sponsor. And if you work it right, then you get more business.
Right, and that's added benefit for your client too. That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm gonna ask you this question, and then I'm gonna look to see what questions we have in the chat as you're answering. So, still along the line of challenges, you've been in business now for a very long time, and you've been successful in your business. For those of us starting out, and maybe people who are been in the business for a while, there are times when I know it gets really, really hard, and you're like, I know even for me, where I'm like, I need to go back to corporate. I was making good money doing my corporate job. Mm-hmm. I feel like I found my calling, my purpose, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but boy, this is hard. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for people maybe feeling that way, or who have felt that way, or tend to, because you know it's up and down and up and down. What suggestions do you have?
Yes. So this is a lonely business. You know, most of us are solopreneurs, and so we're really doing this all on our own. So the first thing I would encourage is to get around other people that are also in this business. So get involved with your local chapter. Most chapters meet once a month. And by the way, you don't have to be a NSA member to go to a chapter meeting. You can go as a guest as often as you want to. So get around, be around other people who are doing the work, because all of us are sharing, you know, various things we learned, like, you know, I just figured out how to do the virtual background on my phone, you know, so we learn all kinds of things from one another, and we can support each other and partner. So you might connect with somebody that really knows not you, because you know technology, but you know.
Well, I got a lot to learn too.
And so, you know, I might partner with somebody else that knows technology, and maybe they want to know how to be more inclusive in their workshops, their presentations, in their writing. And so you know, that's my gift to them. So we share in that regard. But most of all, it's for that moral support. The other thing that I started doing a while ago, I have on and off been a member of mastermind groups, and that can be very beneficial if you can start a mastermind group or be a member of a mastermind group. What I found works best for me, though, is to have accountability partners, and I have a couple of them. Accountability partner is somebody who you connect with on a regular basis. So in my case, it started out every 2 weeks. And now it's every 3 weeks, but no longer than once a month. And we share with each other what our objectives and goals are. And then when we get on the phone the next time, we share with each other what our progress has been. Now, we don't beat each other up if we don't achieve what the goal is. The whole idea of the accountability partner is for them to listen to what it is you want to do. And then if you missed it, help you break that goal into bite-sized pieces. Because usually we bite off too much. Like you say, you want to lose 50 pounds and you've never lost any weight ever in your life. You know, maybe you want to start with 10, you know, or 5 even, but, you know, break it down. So your accountability partner can help you in that way. And they also are a good sounding board. So my accountability partners, I just get these amazing ideas, just vocalizing, you know, verbalizing what I think I want to do. And then they hear it in a different way than what's in my head, of course, and give me ideas or help me along the way or connect me with other people. And it also helps me know that I really am on the right path, because this is a tough business to stay in a long time. Which is why I keep go back to financials. We need to really pay attention to the financials and save money. So many speakers spend it as soon as they get it, and you really need to have that cushion there. So in those times when you're down and you're thinking, oh, I need to go back to corporate life, think about the people you touch, the freedom that you have. Even though we work harder as entrepreneurs than we ever have usually in a corporate environment, think of the people whose lives you've changed, especially those single people who come up to you and tell you how you have changed their life. That can help you stay motivated. And what I started doing about, I think it's probably been about 6 years ago now, is I call them the 4 F's. And I use F's because it just is easy to remember that way. And each year I readjust them based on what I need in my life at that time. So the 4 F's are faith, family, fitness, and finance. And finance is everything about the business, not just finance, but everything about the business. And some years I need to focus on the business. Some year, and so maybe that's a new website or paying the money for a new video or whatever the case may be in the business, going deeper in my area of expertise. So some years it's finance. Most years it's fitness. That's in there somewhere. But some years it might be right at the top because maybe I haven't been taking care of myself or going, getting regular checkups or whatever. And faith. Some years, my spirituality is like, need to start paying more attention to that. And what was the other? Oh, family. And the other one is family. And there were for about 3 years where I was taking care of my dad long distance. He was here in New Jersey. I was in North Carolina. And I was his go-to person to get all those services that he needed taken care of. So that had an impact on the business. I took a lot more business in New York and New Jersey at a reduced fee just because I needed to get up here because at least they could pay for the airline ticket. So having that balance or that the thought in your life first and then seeing business as part of it rather than seeing your whole life as business, I think can help. But most importantly, be around some other people who do this work. They don't have to do the work in the same topic area as you, but they're in this business trying to make all these things work. And as you know, when you go to an influence, you learn so much and you think, oh my gosh, there's so much more to do. And it's very hard to kind of turn that off. But what I have found works for me is, yeah, it would be great if I did all those things and my business could be blooming. However, I go back to why I started in the first place. I never, in my case, never wanted to build a business with a lot of employees because I'd already done the managing people previously. So I never wanted to build a business like that. And I always wanted to make sure that my business supported my life rather than the other way around. And kind of constantly keeping that in balance. So when I see people doing all kinds of amazing things, it's like, yeah, and maybe when the time is right, I might do that, but maybe that's not really going to fulfill me anyway.
Yeah. That's awesome. Those are awesome tips. So yeah, we do have some questions in here.
Okay.
One is, what do you think about online courses and how do you think they will be, or how important they'll be for speakers in the future?
Yes. Well, as a matter of fact, my 2 online courses that it's taken me forever to get them finished because I was doing them, while I was speaking and running the rest of the business. I do think it is very important in 2 ways. One, it can create a passive financial stream for you, some passive income for you. And the second is companies don't always have the finances to bring you in. And this is a great way to say, here's another way if you can't have me there live. And here's actually the third way. In fact, I just did this sale today with the client that I was with. The workshop that I was delivering to them, I knew they really needed this e-course that I just launched. And it's a very, very basic, It's not fancy in any way. It just teaches people how to have difficult conversations, how to give feedback, you know, when somebody opens mouth and inserts foot and your feelings are hurt. Usually in the workplace, people don't have that conversation because they don't know how. Anyway, so now this group has already been through my, what I would call 101 in my head, you know, but my inclusion and bias workshop. And now they're ready for learning how to have these conversations. So with my client, after he was glowing that, you know, everybody loved what I did and we're going to be following up with you. And he said, you know, now that we understand how bias works, we really need to learn more about how to talk to each other. And I said, by the way, I just happen to have a brand new course that is just about live on my website. It's very economically priced, and it actually teaches people this process. Now, I can do it live, you know, I can teach it live, but the online course they can take in their own, at their own pace. So it can be something that you can upsell after you've been with a client, because now they know you and they love you, or it can be something that you have in place of your being there. And in either case, it's already built. You just need to make sure the apparatus is working so they, you know, can pay and get access to it and that kind of thing. I do not believe that it will replace us. That's always one of the fears we as speakers have, is that with all the things on the internet and so many things being free, that people aren't going to want to bring in live speakers. And here's why I know that won't happen. Our most basic need is belonging. People want to connect. Even millennials that don't join as much as we baby boomers do, they do still want to connect with other people. And there are some things that you really just can't get by reading a book or going to an e-course, excuse me, or even being on a live chat like this. You need to connect face to face. So there will always be those kinds of meetings, but we need to be aware of our business mix. So we have a little of many different things, because people learn different ways and they learn at different paces. So you can have workbooks, you can have books, you can have webinars, you can have e-learning, video-based learning, v-learning, as it would be called. And all of those things can help differentiate you from the speakers who speak live all the time and try to be in 150 places in a year. When I hear a speaker say, oh yes, I've spoken at 160 places, I'm thinking this person has no life. So, you just can't continue to do that forever anyway.
Well, that's exciting, and it's it feels good for me too, because I have some e-courses and I'm doing a lot of things, so it's confirmation that I'm on the right track. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing a few things pretty well, so this is good. So as another question, somebody, Talisa asks, for those of us just starting to approach event planners about speaking, would you recommend starting in our own region or just going after anywhere in the country for opportunities?
Well, here's the thing with reaching out to meeting planners and speaker bureaus. You first want to find out how they normally hire speakers, because sometimes the meeting planners only go through bureaus, so they're not going to interact with you directly. However, now here's another plug for eSpeakers. If you use eSpeakers now has what's called Marketplace. And so for those speakers whose fees are not, you know, off the roof, there's lots of opportunity for you to be discovered there if you fill in all of the profile information. And then then the part of the question about should it be anywhere or should it be regional, that decision should be made based on what lifestyle you want to have. If you want it to be in your local region, then that's who you want to go after. And by the way, again, eSpeakers, every time I put a hold on my calendar that I'm going to be in a certain place, then I get this whole list of bureaus and associations, names, phone numbers, websites, all of that are in the area that I may be going to. And I haven't even confirmed it yet, but I get all of that information automatically from eSpeakers. And then Jen, my marketing director, can use that information to try to book other engagements in that same area. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'll echo that plug for e-speakers, even though I'm brand new at it. I was really excited because just last week in the marketplace, I got a couple of messages from people inquiring and wanted me to apply for their jobs, their posts, their speaking jobs. So I can vouch for e-speakers too, and I definitely don't use it to the potential that it has. So I have one last question because this has been a great interview. I've gotten a lot of information, and everybody's gotten a lot of great information. E-speakers is a tool that you mentioned. I also see NSA as a tool. And it's the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. It's the only reason why I know you and you know me. And the reason why all of us are really on this call, right? What recommendations, and this will be my last question, and then if you can answer this and any closing thoughts that you have. What do you feel are the best ways for us to leverage, or I guess one, for people who may not be professional members, one, to become professional members, and then two, to leverage membership in NSA?
Yes. So again, remember, you can come to NSA events, national or local chapters, or special events that we have, like Marquessa was talking about, the video workshop in Atlanta. You don't have to be a member to come. It just means if you're not a member, that means you're going to pay a little bit.
Pay a little more.
But you can come, and that's a way to begin your networking, connecting, and learning more about this business. Also, for people that are just starting out and trying to figure it out, I would recommend that you buy the 2 books that were published by NSA. You can get them on Amazon.com. One is called Speak More, and I always forget what the Paid to Speak, and Speak More. It covers everything, every aspect of the business of speaking. And they're a little bit dated, but the information is still applicable. So those are just 2 good resources, books. They don't cost that much. So in regards to using NSA as a leverage, I joined NSA in 1988, and I almost quit in 1990 because I felt like I wasn't connecting. Now, I was going to my local chapter every month and I was learning, but I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to join something, I'm going to get involved. And I hadn't really been involved yet. And the day that I went to the meeting where I had decided, I'm going to decide at that meeting that I'm either going to get involved or I'm going to quit. That meeting is when a woman named Kathy Kirchner came up to me. She was on the chapter board and asked me if I would serve on the board. You could have knocked me over with a feather, because I thought, nobody knows me. Now, quite frankly, given that this is Black NSA, it was ridiculous for me to think nobody noticed me. I was the only Black person in the room every time. Kind of easy to remember, right? But nevertheless, I said yes. I ran for the board. I served on the board, and as they say, the rest was history. So what I would say to you is get involved in whatever way you can. Keep letting people know that you want to be involved. You can be involved with Black NSA as well, because what happens is you get to know people. They get to know you. And one of the things I love most about Black NSA, there's several things, but one is I get to know folks like you, Summer, and I get to learn what you do, so that when I'm talking to my clients and I have the opportunity to refer someone, I can do that. And I'm always saying to my clients, I use my presidency of NSA president and Global Federation, president of Global Federation, as a benefit for my clients. What I will say to them is that when you have this event next year, I know you may not want to bring me back next year because I was just here, but please let me know what type of speakers you're looking for, what topics, because I'm connected to thousands of them. Now, I'm not going to recommend somebody that I don't know. I'm not going to just go to the NSA directory. So leveraging NSA is showing up, is being visible, coming all the time. And being willing to do what you said at the beginning, which was you came up to me, introduced yourself to me, and that began the connection. So having the willingness to respect people, don't barge in on a conversation when they're standing, you know, this close to each other. They're really trying to have a conversation, which is hard to do at NSA. But when you see that person that you want to meet, then, you know, go up to them and introduce. And in particular, connect with other people of color. I'm not saying that we need to be a clique, but that's one thing that we have in common.
Sure.
That we are people of color in this very large organization, and just say, hi, you know, this is my first conference and my name is, and then it takes off from there. So use that to your advantage. The other last thought, because being involved is so huge. I mean, you get so much from it, both in building your business and also just in how it can impact your personal life. The other is that when I go to NSA events, I go with a focus. So because you get totally overwhelmed with so much that they are offering. And so even today, I will determine what my focus is. So whether my focus is, it's time for me to write another book. And by the way, when I say write a book, you know, it doesn't have to be this fancy hardcover 500-page book. It could be, you know, something that's got 200 pages with a lot of worksheets in it, but something, you know, that you can begin, that you can publish through Amazon.com you can do that on your own. So don't get in your own way about getting some kind of book out there. But in any case, so the year that I was writing a book, everything that they offered that had anything to do with writing or publishing or marketing books, I went to. And because those concurrent sessions are going on, you're trying to figure out which thing to go to, I'd always remind myself, you know what, I can always buy the recordings. And the other way I made a decision on which sessions I would go to is if I wanted to go to 2 sessions that were at the same time, I would read the description and ask myself, which one do I have to be at because it's going to be visual? The other one is going to be more information. So, you know, I can go to the visual one and then buy the tape for the one that's going to be a little more straightforward. So
a couple of things. I think I just have to give a plug to Marquessa because just what you said, Marquessa was another person that at my very first influence, I walked up to her and I introduced myself to her because I'd seen her on the NSA stuff, on the NSA site and all of those emails that I was getting. And she immediately put me to work. She said, hey, do you know how to? And it was mostly communications PR related. I was like, yeah, I do. And she asked me if I would, and I said yes. And the power of saying yes and getting connection has really transformed my life, my business, and brought me in. So I did want to give her that credit because it has been big for me. And I encourage everybody who's on now to say yes and to get involved and look for ways to really grow and get connected to Black NSA. And that helps us grow closer to NSA as well. So I can really echo those sentiments. I thought I had one more, I thought we were about done, but I do have one more question.
Okay.
I think it's a great one. It's a great one. So Shirley Davis wants to know, with all this great success that you've had, what's next for Lenora Billings-Harris?
I'm laughing because I know Shirley Davis, and she is phenomenal and has done so many amazing things. So thank you very much, Shirley, for the question. And so I can officially share this now. I've shared it a little bit with some people. What's next for me is I have launched a nonprofit, a 501c3. We just had our first board meeting last week. And what I realized was that I wanted to figure out a way to do some of what I do for profit right now, but do it in a nonprofit way and really impact communities. And this technique that I told you I have this e-learning course for, I really want to teach this technique at a very grassroots level. So long story short, as I was searching again for what might be that thing that I do, and do more at a community level. So I'm not slowing down in my business world, actually, I'm speeding up. Speeding up meaning spending more time with friends, spending more time doing fun things like being here in New Jersey. I'm staying an extra day going to New York tomorrow DVR The View, because you may see me in it, because I love Whoopi Goldberg. So I have tickets to go to The View tomorrow. So I'm doing more when I book an engagement. Depending on where it is, I will spend extra time to be there, to reach out to friends or family, etc. So I'm speeding up doing those things. And then in the nonprofit, when I was still searching for what that thing would be, I went to the Global Speakers Summit last year in February. It was in New Zealand. The Global Speakers Federation has a speaker summit every few years, usually every 2 or 3 years. And that summit is specifically focused for people who speak or who want to speak globally. So it's very focused in that regard. Great way to, again, network. So if you hear a summit is coming, then you want to go to that. And it's, so anyway, I went to this, and they would have a charity event. They would do it, they did it in New Zealand, with the New Zealand Speakers Association. So that, they partnered. And just like at NSA, where we have a foundation event, they had a money-raising event. And the organization they were raising money for is called the Global Dialogue Foundation. Global Dialogue Foundation. I heard that name and learned what they were about, and met the CEO. The international nonprofit is in Australia. And the more we talked, the more I thought, this is too perfect, about bringing cultures together, people together, folks who are different in various ways, and teaching them how to dialogue and talk to each other, so they can then go into their communities and work together to do amazing things.
Yes.
And so that was, it could not have been more perfect. And so I have now partnered with them. So I will have the first real extension of what they're doing by having Global Speakers Federation USA. And the organization itself is connected to the United Nations. So it's connected to the whole global civilization for peace. So that's what I'm up to.
Just a little something, just a little bit of something. I think that is awesome, and another example of you not being afraid to reach out and make that connection. So I think that's amazing. So let's see. Let me make sure I got everything. Okay, yes. So Lenora, you are co-chairing the Black NSA Influence event. So guys, Lenora, the amazing Lenora, is co-chairing the Black NSA Influence event. So if you got anything out of this, which I already know you did, just imagine what's going to take place on Saturday evening at Influence. Just imagine what you're going to get out of that, and just being connected to Lenora. It's just been amazing. It's just been amazing. I want to close with this, Lenora. Ubuntu. I just think that's amazing. Ubuntu. Can you?
And you got it right.
Oh, I practiced. I practiced. I had my first opportunity of really saying it at the awards program last year at Influence.
Right.
And but I think you embody that. You embody that. And can you just share with everyone where that came from?
Yes.
And what it means.
So quickly, my most favorite place on the planet is South Africa. It is where I really learned that I was on this planet to do this work. If you want to know what happened, you go to my website, Ubuntu Global, and click About, and you'll find a short video. The Power of Belonging, I think, is what we called it. And you'll get the essence of the story about Annie. But in any case, once I realized I needed to find a way to do this work in the space of diversity and inclusion in a way different than I had seen other people doing it, in a non-judgmental, non-guilt-ridden way, again, my antenna went up and I was looking for more. And on one of my trips to South Africa, I learned this Zulu proverb. Nelson Mandela used it as the foundation for how his team wrote the new Constitution. And to me, it's a broad definition of the importance of what diversity and inclusion is. So what it means, the translation, is I am because we are. We are because I am. And so for me, that's what inclusion and diversity together are. We need each other so that all of us can be better at what we do, build more effective and respectful communities. That's it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lenora.
It has been my pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for another Monday Mastery. See you next time.